this is a hard case
Hmm.
because and I say it's a hard case because we had to cover it, but it is hard for us to the individuals who could be Carmelo Anthony's parents, right? And then this affinity, and you and I kind of talked about this earlier, that he allegedly had, that's in the papers, for guns and knives.
Well, let me give some context before you
Yeah.
continue on, so folks know where you're going. The next sort of area I wanted to talk about was exactly that. Apparently, according to the motion for new trial, this deal was made because the defense knew that prosecutors had what was called 70 pages of disciplinary records from school and social media posts that showed, quote, an affinity for violence and weapons on the part of Carmelo Anthony. And they didn't think if that got in front of the jury, he would ever survive. And quite frankly, I had written that I think they were right.
Hmm.
With this particular jury, they see that he was done. So I didn't think the deal was the worst thing in the world, but they had some miscalculations there. But at the end of the day, that's what they had. So what I wanted to talk about as well, because of your background, is number one, a kid like Carmelo. I had kind of bought this idea, and I'm not necessarily changed, but it turned my head a little bit, that he was this good kid. He worked a couple of jobs. He was captain of both the track and football team. I bought those as being true. No one came out and said they weren't. But then you turn around and hear about 70 pages of disciplinary records and stuff with him with weapons and an affinity for violence on social media. I wanted to see if you could provide some context for that. What's a kid like Carmelo doing in that milieu, who, finding such fascination with that? Is there any thoughts in your mind about that?
So let me put on another hat that I have, and that
Hmm.
is my former school board member hat. And with 70 pages, I need to see exactly what that looks like, because,
Now, the 70 pages weren't just the disciplinary records. That's total. So it was
okay,
total, including the social media stuff.
okay. So I would like to see what the disciplinary records were for schools, because in context, when you think about school and discipline children of color, he had epilepsy, is something that I heard. Did he have any other conditions? Did he have ADHD? Did he have any other educational issues that then aligned him? Did he ever need an IEP? How long is this history? Is this only in high school? Is this throughout his entire educational track? How many times was he suspended? What was he suspended for? Because you can literally get suspended for showing up late if you say something smart to a teacher. So I need more context for that. But when it comes to the guns and the knives, if you are black and brown, you can't have knives, guns. You can't have an affinity for them. You can't like them. You can't talk about them on social media. But if you don't look like us, if you're white, you can.
Hmm.
Because the context gets turned around. Now, I have 4 children, 2 girls, 2 boys. One of my daughters, my daughters actually have more tattoos than my sons. They work in banking. One works in reentry. My son, I have one that is in trouble. So he is exactly where he needs to be. And then I have my oldest son who is Howard grad, biochem. Now, he doesn't have any of the tattoos. My girl, one of my daughters, has a lot of tattoos. We also have knives. We also have guns. My youngest daughter, is one heck of a shot. She lived in Alabama. So when
But
you
let's
think,
let's be fair. You're a law enforcement family, and you told me that your family hunts.
yeah,
So
hunt,
guns were kind of a part of the culture in your home.
yes, we are hunters. We and there are different styles of knives. I had one that had a police shield on there. So we need more context for that too.
Hmm.
Now, I don't want them showing them on social media, but teenagers do, young people do what young people do.
Hmm.
And then And even if you tell them, I even heard things about, well, this is why you got to be raised in a two-parent home, and you can't. But you cannot control every single thing about your child.
No.
And I haven't seen all of the pictures, but
there's stuff floating around on the internet. I have no idea if it's
I've
real or
seen
not.
like
Could
some
be
of them.
photoshopped. I don't know if those are real. I'm not referring to those,
Yeah, but
because we don't know exactly what the prosecution had.
and we don't know what his aspirations were. We don't know what he was doing. And just because he had access to weapons and just because he carried one in his backpack, we don't know whether he walked home, whether he had ever been bullied, whether he left it in there and just forgot. I literally was traveling this last time I traveled, forgot that I had one of my knives, not guns, one of my knives in my bags, and I
Did you get
made it
arrested at the
through.
airport, Sonny? Did you get arrested at the airport?
No, look, thank God, not this time, not this time. But I made it to my destination and I
Right.
went to train law enforcement. So it didn't get picked up when I left DC, but coming back, it did. And as soon as it got the click on the thing, I said, oh, because I had two things. I had water left in my cup, and then so I was like, I forgot. And I travel and I know better. So then, of course, it got confiscated. They asked me, is there anybody here in the airport? And it was the one with the shield on there. And I was like, and it was pink. And then, so we don't know why he had it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I
Fair
could flip
enough.
mine open quick too.
Yeah.
So having it and having access. We also know that the Metcalf boys, they hunted.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hunt, knives and guns are a thing. But even young kids, if you notice, very, very young kids on videos, they are white, they are lined up, aiming. They have long guns. They are learning to shoot them.
But here
But
goes
why
the
is it?
difference you were talking about earlier, right? This
Yeah.
idea
So
that
why is
when
it
you
when
see a
I,
picture of a white kid with a gun, you see a
yeah,
picture of a black kid with a gun, immediately your mind goes two different
yeah.
places.
And why? Why is that? Why does the black kid with the gun have to be the one that is absolutely going to do something violent and the white kid not?
Right.
Now, did he stab? You and I are crystal clear on this. We never said that he didn't do it. We never said that he didn't do it.
No,
But
I
you
was
still
never
got to
who done it.
ask why, because there were no people that looked like us on the jury that would have understood that language, that would have asked more questions. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
came back in 3 hours. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. They came back in 3 hours. What was that?
Yeah. No, that
They
was a
they were
foregone
already done.
conclusion. But you got to admit, part of that played into that was he didn't tell his story. Right. So
Exactly.
the only story they had was the story from the other side, which again was problematic because if you know the law, you know they were allowed to lead those teen witnesses
Yeah.
without any objection. So the teens never were the ones who came out and said he was the sole aggressor. They were asked us questions like, he was the sole aggressor, right? He was the one that provoked it all, right? And they would just answer yes. And so when you saw that and you saw there were no objections, that was problematic. But they never really had an opportunity to put on a case.
And Michael, you said something earlier about, you know, the attorney having to go back to the community, right? Those kids had to go back to that community too. The kids
Yes,
that took the
that's the
stand.
part people didn't want to hear.
Yeah,
I
they
think
had to
those
go
kids
back to
had
that
pressure
community.
too.
I mean,
Look at Para. Look at his friend. He took the stand and denied even knowing the boy. He was like, we pass each other once in a while. He had to be shown 5 pictures of them hanging out on the weekend for him to admit that they were friends and hung out a lot.
yeah. So, and it was the children on the witness stand, the teens, the young adults on the teens on the witness stand. I'm not calling them young adults. The teens on the witness stand. It was their parents, where their parents worked, the neighborhoods they live in. So this wasn't just one. They were those teens and those that took the witness stand were surrounded, just like Carmelo felt surrounded.
No question.
And then he reacted. See, they wanted the teens on the witness stand were able to respond, but Carmelo had to react to the threat.
Yeah.
The teens had time, and their families had time to gather their thoughts, their presence, and decide this is how we are going to respond, not
And
just for today, but
and
for
it doesn't
tomorrow
matter.
and lifelong.
It doesn't
Yeah,
matter if those kids were white or black either, because one of the
yeah.
common, things online was that, oh, there were black people who said he was the one who was the sole provocateur. Well, they have to live in that community too.
They have to live in that. They have to live there. Their parents have to work there. Their siblings have to work there. Anybody that's related to them, that knows them, they're in a neighborhood. They have to exist. And those teens that are black, they have to exist. And existence means survival.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I think was the narrative has never come through for Karmelo.
No.
He is existing, and okay, so he had guns and he had knives. Okay, all of that is true. We've never said that it wasn't. But in what context? Because it was
Yeah.
never provided.
Sonny, the one part that was never accepted in this case by people who saw him as a monster was this idea that this was a 17-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And so was Austin Metcalf.
Yeah.
I'm willing to give leave to both boys for whatever
Mhm.
reasons that they got a conflict that day, that some of that is just being a teenager. Teenagers
Yes.
are obstinate. Teenagers are figuring out their masculinity.
Mhm.
Teenagers can do a lot of dumb things. It's unfortunate that in this instance, there was a weapon involved. And again, we're not saying he shouldn't pay for that.
Right.
But had this not been weapons, maybe a couple people would maybe got a black eye or a broken leg or something. But it would have been just another fight amongst teens, which happened all the time. And apparently the Metcalfs had a proclivity for fighting.
They absolutely had a proclivity for fighting. But see, it was okay. And even the demeanor of the father while he was saying this is
That
not
tells you
about,
everything you need to know.
look, when he said initially, oh, this is not about race, and then everything that he said after,
It was about race.
it was all about race. It's all
This
about
isn't
race.
about race. Oh, that
It was,
watermelon head should rot in jail.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the language and the language that people use now, the memes that they create, the thing. Oh, and I even looked at your thread and saw somebody say, "It's over. It's over." People want to like cut us off from, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
have
No,
had some
I
people.
lost I had a whole support group when I
Yeah.
left Court TV, my old viewers, and literally this minute I mentioned race, they ran like cockroaches. It was
Oh yeah.
unbelievable.
Oh,
They
oh
just
yeah.
had no
I've
interest
gotten it
because
too.
I'm a racist because I
Yeah.
mentioned that race might have played a role.
And see, the thing is, people don't want to talk about it because they say,
Yeah.
we're playing the race card. Actually, you can't play a card that you ain't never been dealt.
Mm-mm. And
Because
like I
you've
always
never.
said, it was the prosecutor who played the race card in this case by getting rid of those 3 black teachers who were perfectly able to sit in judgment
Yeah.
of this case, regardless of the fact that they were school teachers in the Collin County school system.
And I was picking up when you would see the protesters outside, and I was looking at the threads of individuals who were saying, and look at that, they better not think they're gonna burn down anything here. And I was like, well, that's really interesting because they think of peaceful protests and Black Lives Matter. Oh, and somebody says that, well, and about Black Lives Matter. Actually, I don't. I'm not affiliated with Black Lives Matter. I don't
Right.
even, I have never been affiliated with Black. I am Sunny Slaughter. I am who I am. I know people that say that, and I always ask, well, who is it? And what do you know about Black Lives Matter? What do you know about Antifa?
What do
it
you know
is.
about black on black crime? What do you know about BLM, Antifa? None of it. None of it. They don't know nothing. They're supposed to
And
get off Fox News, girl. That's all.
that's what, and my children when they grew up, and we lived in Alabama. I think I said this on one of the shows. So we lived in one of the cities in Alabama for a long time when my kids were young, and my son, both of my boys were they were only one or two black boys on the football team. My daughter was the only black girl on the as a cheerleader, right? And then my oldest daughter. So you can tell what our community looked like, right? I had no problems. They helped raise my children. They call them auntie and uncle and all that kind of stuff today. Because let me tell you something, I let people know I'm not going to be that parent. Now, when they went to another school district, I had to go up there and let those folks know too. They were white, and I had to let them know I am not the parent that you want to do this with. Get a hold of yourselves. And
Can I
look,
just tell you, Sonny, you're talking about what every Black parent does,
mhm,
because every place that we've moved, my family, that's my wife's position.
yeah,
She needs to spend at least 1 or 2 days at the school, get
hmm,
them to know who she is,
yeah.
let the teachers know who she is, so that they know they can't mess with this particular boy.
Yeah, that's that part right there. And it's always, and it's
Yeah.
like, no, this not what we're going to do. And then when we lived in neighborhoods where the kids mostly like that, my kids didn't like it.
Mm,
They
interesting.
were, they were, the school felt different. There was stuff there, but that we have the reaction and then the reality. And some children can move about and they can't. And even when I told people, I've been to not this time, but when Trump was the president before, I've been to the White House. I was specifically asked to go.
Hmm.
I was called. We lived here, and we were called by a senator's office in another state and said, "Can you go?" And 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 because people know me, I said, "Y'all need some color, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah, we can go. We can go." That was the tour that I was able to take my kids on the tour, and they was like, "I said, we don't have no problem because we are a racially, culturally, ethnically, and socially diverse family." Okay,
Sure.
I tell people we've always colored out the line, myself and my children. We color out the
Hmm.
line, we live out the line, we love out the line.
That's the Black community, though, right? That's the Black community.
Everywhere, exactly,
Yeah, that's
exact.
just the Black
Because
community.
we have assimilated into America, and we
Yes,
also
exactly.
understand the dog whistles. And there was
Yes,
a lot of whistling going on, and still we call them dog whistles, but we know when you show us who you are, we recognize you. Even when
yes,
you try not to, when you don't recognize yourself, we recognize you. In
that's
this
right.
case, and this young man and his family, the hate that they dispense about the GoFundMe account,
Mm.
I have never seen. And I was like, well, how do you know what they've done with the money? Like they bought a new house. How do you know they used that for that?
Yeah.
But when Kyle Rittenhouse, because see, context and understanding matter.
Yes.
And
Yes.
of course they had to turn the money back over. But people want to control everything when it comes to people that they don't like in the conversations that they don't want to have. And this is
Hmm.
a case where people, I never try to convince people, and I always tell them, don't come on my page with stuff because I don't care whether I'm on Court TV, Long Crime News, CNN. If you come at me with something crazy, you are going to get the response from me because I am always going to be who I am. I am never going
Well,
to
you
be
better than
threatened
me. I can't.
by
I
not.
had to turn that off. I couldn't. I
Yeah,
started that way, and it was just too much. It was affecting me.
yeah,
I
and I did
couldn't.
too because eventually I was like, you know what?
They're not interested in hearing what you have to say. It's
They,
not a
they,
conversation.
it's
It's
not a
not a
conversation;
conversation.
it's an
It's people
attack.
shouting at each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, so now, but I see things. And my lawyer said, okay, you got to be measured, and I'm like, yeah, but what we are trying to do. There are no sides to take because there are no winners.
Yes. That's what
Both
people don't
families lost.
understand. I'm
Yeah.
not rooting for Carmelo Anthony. I'm not rooting against Austin Metcalf or his family.
No.
We're looking at it, we're saying we don't think justice was done here, and here's why we don't think it was done.
And
You
that's
know?
facts.
And that's all we do, right? That's all I
Yes.
do. I don't care what color they are.
That's
I don't care
all.
what color they are.
That's why I had to change some of my language, Michael, around, people say, well, you're a victim's advocate. I'm a justice advocate.
Yes.
I am not, I am absolutely not against victims. I have been victimized. My children have been victimized. My daughter was, and we had to go through the criminal justice system. Okay. But
It's
I
the worst place to
realized,
be, Sonny.
uh,
People
and,
don't
and,
realize it if they haven't been through it.
and I have had the system come for me in some very unique ways that changed our lives. that people can't even imagine. And I always tell people, you, nothing that you say about, none of the lies that you tell about me are going to mean anything to me. And you will not shame me, and I will not be shamed by my truth. My truth is my truth, and I can stand on it every single day. We are not saying that that Karmelo Anthony, like you said, should not be punished. What we are saying is the work that we are doing, the opportunities that we have now, that long ago others did not have in this way, is our opportunity to focus on changing systems, challenging systems,
Challenging. That's it.
challenging systems, changing the lens of those that don't understand how it impacts all of us, not just some of us,
Mm-hmm.
and making a difference. That's why I talk about lens, language, and the law, not
Yes.
L3, the frameworks that I'm always, because if you don't have, if your lens is solely focused on hate and the narrative, and then the language is only the negative narrative, only one, you're only willing to hear what you want to hear, not listen, then you know nothing. And if you have no understanding of law, if you are only watching court TV, law and crime, these shows, and all of the media with your understanding of the law, that a conviction is the end of anything, then you are not paying attention to anything
That's
at
right.
all. You know
That's right.
nothing.
I had people online telling me that people should be penalized for putting people through appeals. So he should be penalized because he's now appealing his conviction. I'm like, hey, really? I mean, come on. But I can tell you this. I mean, let me say this. I've had some very, very good conversations
Mm-hmm.
with people on both sides of the aisle, where we're talking through some
Yeah.
of the things that I am talking to you about, some of the points of view that they have. And we're having solid conversations that I absolutely walk away from feeling like I did some good. Right.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's really what we're trying to do here.
Every day, your show, when you know, with Judge Ashley and I, you know, I'm
Mm-hmm.
watching, you know, Marie, we are focused on justice and
Mm-hmm.
truth, and we understand the Constitution. Okay, the Constitution is a living, breathing, functioning, not just a document, but it really is enshrined in the systems in such a way till if you don't have a clear understanding, we didn't say everything is good in it, we didn't say everything is perfect in it,
Right. Right.
but that's where the challenge comes in. That's why we have to get other people to understand, because you can't change what you don't understand. You can't challenge what you don't understand. If you only looking, I'm only going to look to the left. I'm only going to look to the right. And I'm thinking, and everybody is crazy because ain't nobody trying to get centers situated so
No.
you can listen and hear and listen and gather some understanding. We don't
Exactly.
know what the appeals process will be for Carmelo. We don't know what's going to happen, and neither does anyone else.
But
We all have to wait.
what we do know, Sonny, is that once that conviction is in the books,
Yeah.
it is tough to get it overturned.
Yes.
Once they got you in that system that way,
Yes.
it's tough to get overturned. So what we do know, it's an uphill battle, a steep uphill battle.
It is, and I feel like uh, it's late. Karmelo Anthony is a case that will live long beyond you and I having this conversation. I have a 3-month-old grandson, and this conversation that you and I are having right now, we are legacy leaders and we are living legends right now. And our children, you have sons, and your sons will see the etchings of who you were and the legacy that you have left for them and their children and their children's children. This is what we have. This is the justice road and path that we are on today. It is different than yesterday. Our fight is still very much a fight. I got my award from Harry Belafonte with Amelia Boynton Robinson. Amelia Boynton Robinson is the woman that was in the wheelchair that Barack Obama was pushing over the Edmund Pettus Bridge. When they talk about Bloody Sunday, it was her blood that was running down the road. And there's a picture of her and I, and we had a private conversation, and I was so honored and in tears talking to her. And I said, you are just a legend. And I was so honored and talking to her. And she said, and you are the future. And when Harry Belafonte said to me, what are you really willing to do for others? It took me some time to digest that, because that's the question that you and I and others like us on this journey, what are we really willing to do? We are really willing to educate, to advance the conversation around cases like Karmelo Anthony, to make people understand. We understand the difference between the truth and a lie, and between evidence and emotion, and facts and fiction, and that justice was not on the table in this particular case.
Yeah, wasn't on the menu.
No.
And we learned out it really wasn't from the beginning. The prosecutor manipulated, and really the judge manipulated this entire process.
And what kind of judge comes after and do all the interviews that he has done? Have you ever?
No, listen. I don't want to go off on that tangent, but I will say this. At the end of the day, when he did that interview, that's when it solidified it for me. You had a gag order set in stone, sua sponte, on your own. No one asked for it, didn't hear any evidence, had it for 10 months prior to the trial. You had them deliver the motions to your office so they wouldn't be on the public docket. Nobody could say anything about the case. Less than 48 hours after the case, you're doing an interview talking about how great you did and all the rulings were right and the jury got it right. I knew then this was a setup in some way. Something weird happened here, and I was just waiting for the shoe to drop, and it did.
It has dropped. It has stood firm, and we will see what happens next.
Yes, we will.
I would just like for people to temper. We've seen people for who they are, though. This is a painful.
That's our special gift, Sonny, as Black people, I think. I honestly believe that. I think because of the way we've had to assimilate and work through, I think we're able to see things in that way that other people can't.
I mean, there's no other way to see it because there's no other way to say it. And I mean, it's just, a lie is a lie, no matter how many times you tell it, no matter how many people repeat it. And, I mean, it's just a lie. And that's the truth. I literally have to, sometimes, I can get in my own thoughts and I'm like, well, maybe I'm overthinking this. And then I'll call somebody who does not do any of this, who is a lawyer, though. I'll call lawyers. I'll call other journalists who are not doing it. And I said, am I overthinking? And they don't all look like me. I said, am I overthinking this? What am I missing? Like, what is happening here? And I'm like, y'all do know I have like some responsibilities and stuff here. And then a lot of people want you to do it all for free. And they think, but they don't know how hard this is.
That's exactly right.
This is really a hard journey.
Yes.
To be a truth teller and a justice seeker, not somebody that's just behind a keyboard saying anything. We are looking to impact the world in a very unique way.
Yes. Yes. And you know what? That's a perfect place to end it, because that is absolutely the truth. Dr. Sonny Slaughter, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a fantastic conversation. And again, we're not trying to sort of change the world, but we just want to change one mind at a time to say, hey, open up, take a look at all the facts, take a look at all that's going around, listen to other people's perspectives. That's really my main mantra, is stay objective, stay open, and quite frankly, stay woke. Dr. Sonny Slaughter, you have a great day, folks. You have a great one as well. Thank you so much for joining me here on Legal View.
It was my honor.
Thank you.